All right, so this is a story that's quite embarrassing where we got incompletes for our grades. Okay, and I'm going to share this story. I'm going to share this embarrassing story because I want you to learn from our mistakes. And I've captured all the painful emails that we've exchanged with our advisors, my teammates, to show you how important it is to stay on schedule and stay on top of all of your tasks. So let's begin. So our advisor, Dr. Trimble, he said normally we don't give back final reports till he's done grading, but we have to turn in our paper on Wednesday. So that would be in May. Okay. And so he's sending us back a little bit early to give us time to make some edits. Now he left off our other advisor, Wayne Shromo, off his email because he wants to make sure that they evaluate the report independently and then we can compare results later. We don't want to like bias each other's opinions or grading or things like that. And he ends with, I'm disappointed to say the least. So we're not off to a good start, okay, because this thing is due on Wednesday. Okay, so then in between, I asked Dr. Trim if we could meet because I saw what he commented on. And so I told the team, hey, I met with Dr. Trimble this morning and here are my notes. So here's what I wrote. So from our meeting, we said I didn't get any feedback from either of our advisors regarding this, including the second draft that we submitted April 25. So we got this a little bit later than we thought. And so we had what's called czars. So the czar was some senior who was in charge of compiling all information and then leader for a different task. So in this case, we had a czar for this paper. And so the czar at this time, he was basing off the technical design paper from the first place journal paper from last year. So he thought in his mind that this was sufficient because it kind of follows the first place journal paper. Now, for me personally, I don't really follow their progress that closely as I should have. I was busy working on other things, keeping track of other things. I just trusted him that they would do it. So then I asked, what's the next step forward here? Do I need to make all the changes that they suggested, sent to both her advisors, Dr. Trumbull, before we submit the final version on Wednesday? So we're running out of days. So by this time, it's already Monday. Okay, so the other thing that Dr. Trumbull mentioned to us is, you guys cannot turn in the same thing. So basically, what we handed in for the second draft was almost the same thing that we gave for this final report draft. And so it's like there's all this work that you've done, right, since the previous draft. So you should have included all those things, but we didn't. And he also mentioned in point B here, how do we let seniors think that it's okay to resubmit this or just submit this to competition? I think he used a stronger word. It's not ready to go. Okay, so we as seniors, we're not ready to go out in the world as engineers. It's kind of embarrassing. And this is where, the nail in the coffin really comes in. Dr. Trimble told us that, he's leaning towards giving us I's, which stands for incompletes, until we actually get at least one mock competition flight test from start to finish. And he understands that we already purchased our plane tickets, we have booked the hotel, and so he had a legit concern, and we all did, that, someone's job might be on the line here, especially if someone has a job after graduation. Now, I think if I remember correctly, two of us and the seniors had jobs after graduation because the other seniors, we graduated in the fall semester. This was spring semester. So two of us finished, I think, in 4 years. The others, five or whatever number of us finished in 4.5 years. Okay, so point D here, and to support Dr. Trimble said we didn't have any references. We didn't include the Penguin manual. The Penguin is the name of the fixed wing drone. We didn't include references about our radios that we chose. He asked a great question, how do we let seniors graduate if we don't include any references in our papers? It's a big red flag that, we clearly missed. And so he suggested I want to correct the journal paper by 4 p.m. tomorrow. And so I purposely decided let's just turn it in at least 2 hours early, just to give us some buffer time. And he told us we need to really care about this technical design paper and be serious about it. And so he wants to know that we can compete at this competition effectively. So we got a great plan. We need to execute it. And then when we go to competition, bring back all the lessons you've learned, How are we going to do things differently? And then the next teams can build on our experiences. And so after he's looked at all the terrible things we wrote in that paper, he said he's not convinced we will compete, at least very well. And so what did we do? Well, we wrote an anthology, which is basically here's what we did. But he said, here's what you should have been writing about. You should have talked about what are the decisions you made and were they good or bad? How do you know that's true? And what would you suggest future teams to do? So the team after us, the team after them, if they're going to be reading our papers, do you want them to make the same decisions that we did? The good decisions, probably, and then why? Then the bad decisions, obviously, no, but then explain why. And then we should also mention the accuracy of our model. So how do we know if the model is good? And if we need to change it, where where should we go next? Or this is where we got stuck. We couldn't develop any further due to some resources, some constraints, whatever the case may be. But then this is important because at least the future teams will know where do I start at the next iteration for this model that our previous teammates have tried to work on for us, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. And the other good question that he asks is, would we be restarting any decisions? In other words, if you're to go back in time, knowing everything you know now, should you do something differently? Based on your analysis, I would have done this, would have done that. So, for example, you told us, like, say you do this decision, we say, okay. And then thinking back in time, oh, actually, we should have done this differently based on analysis or redo an analysis. Maybe we did something wrong in the model. And then finally, he asked, Evan, as team captain, you're in project management, you got to ask yourself, how did work get past you? And when you're monitoring the timeline, the tasks, the progress of things, it's really important that you keep an eagle's eye on that. Even though I was a little bit sidetracked in other tasks, it's not good. He said, so fool you once, shame on you, but fool me twice, it's shame on me. So this was a huge, huge learning lesson for me, and I definitely learned to keep a lot closer eye on even the smaller nitty-gritty details that you would normally think would just happen on its own, or you just trust someone, maybe too trusting on someone to get something done. You don't want to just hear and believe things. You want to just trust, verify, follow up, make sure that things get done. Okay, then after that, I told Dr. Trimble, okay, so we've made all of our changes. Here is the edited version of that paper. We pulled a lot of late hours and things like that. So we turned in, and then after that, I told him this is our team's contributions based on it's just in case the advisors they want to know who wrote what, and then things like that. Okay, and then after that, Dr. Trimble told us, all right, well, we told you, right, I'm going to give you guys incompletes. And now he said there's no change in the competition journal report between the midterm and final submissions, right? We turned something in and then we turned the same thing in again, which doesn't make sense, especially when there's a lot of work that was done between the midterm and final submission. And of course, Dr. Trimble said, he's skeptical. I don't know if the team, you guys, are going to be able to follow through and finish all the details before you go to competition. And he said, we've invested a lot of time and money into this team. He says, even more valuable, there's a lot of mentor time from the advisors that were invested in you folks as well. He doesn't want to see that educational investment wasted. And so he said, there won't be any long-term effects as long as, these these incompletes are corrected by early June, because by mid-June, we're already at competition. So he said, I'm, happy to make changes as soon as he's convinced that we're ready to go for competition. And so the revised journal article is a good step in that direction. It's a good first step. But now we need to do a complete mock competition run from start to finish. So then on June 3rd, I said, Kate, so Dr. Trimble, we did our flight test, the whole process from start to finish. And I feel confident that we're ready to go for competition. And as another witness, we had our other advisor, Dr. Shoma, come today. So he saw the whole process from start to finish himself. So don't just trust me, you can just trust our other advisor as well. And then I wanted to be positive and say, I'm happy and proud of our team that, we came together. We had great work and efforts over the summer break. Okay, and Dr. Trimble said, great, excellent, well done. I will make the changes first thing Monday, and I hope you all feel a well-deserved sense of accomplishment as you finish this up. Can then, just to make sure that our advisors know who is doing what and letting them know about the progress. So I gave them a spreadsheet about who worked over summer break on the different tasks. And then I just told them that we had a couple people who were off island, but they did contribute through Skype. And so we did have some people make contributions remotely instead of just only in person. And so that is the long story. Well, not that short, but very painful story. So I really hope that you, as a project manager or a young team captain, that you take your job really seriously. You really monitor the timeline, you monitor the schedule, you really look at the critical path. You don't just blindly trust people to get things done. You want to follow up, and if you have to, keep on following up, seeing progress, look at the day by day progress or the week by week progress, make sure things are getting done. Keep eyes on your completion progress bars, that percentages on the Gantt chart. Make sure we're moving forward. See every single task, update yourself at least weekly, where we are on the today line. Make sure that we're going to be on schedule. And you don't ever want to slip. And you want to make sure that we finish on time. Now, because we're students, the grade is the thing that cost us, right? Eventually we got our grades back, but it's going to be forever on our transcript that at some point in time we had an incomplete, and that's solidified in stone. So that was the ultimate consequence. It's permanent, right? But in industry, if your project goes late or long or you get some major delay or something, then whoever's funding you, they might not want to continue investing in your project, right? So then they might pull funds or people are going to lose their jobs. So the consequences are going to be a lot more significant than simply just not getting a grade or getting a bad grade. And so it's really important that during college, this is sort of like boot camp. This is good practice. This is good training. So we want to learn a lot and sometimes learn from our mistakes so that when you get out into industry as a professional engineer, you can work hard and effectively and efficiently, and you won't repeat the same mistakes that we made during school.